Cuban Missile Crisis is another Twilight Struggle card that is dripping with theme. And it's an interesting card, unique among all the other events. We will take an in-depth look at it here on Legendary Tactics. The Cuban Missile Crisis card is a card that uniquely represents the terrifying events of October 1962, but in a rather detached way, as it feels very transactional in nature. But it's an event that can be used in a few interesting ways, and we will take a look at them here. This card is a neutral 3-op mid-war event. I haven't counted the words and compared, but this event card is one of the final contenders for the wordiest event text of any card in the deck. If you can plow through all the verbiage, the event works like this. DEFCON is set to 2, and any coup attempt by your opponent this turn, anywhere on the board, including non-battleground states, will cost your opponent the game. This event can be cancelled at any time by the USSR by removing 2 influence from Cuba, or by the US by removing 2 influence from West Germany or Turkey. There are a couple of things that need to be pointed out here. First of all, some people miss the fact that global thermonuclear war is triggered if your opponent attempts a coup, not the player who triggered the event. This sets up a potentially interesting situation. The second thing that needs to be pointed out is that removing the influence as directed to cancel the event is not an action. It can be cancelled at any time without the need for a card play, and it doesn't even need to be that player's turn, which has actually led to some disputes as far as fair timing. For example, is it fair for the USSR to announce the cancellation of the event by removing 2 influence from Cuba just before the US player rolls for a realignment there? Because this information is available to both players, I think it's fair to rule that it's an action that can be taken at literally any time, and that fact must be taken into consideration in both players' plans. Ultimately, though, a spirit of gamesmanship might be the ultimate arbiter of this question. This event is likely going to be headlined as it gradually becomes less effective as the turn goes on. It also tends to be of greater advantage to the US than the USSR. First of all, by lowering the DEFCON to 2, a Cuban Missile Crisis headline blocks the usual first action round battleground coup by the USSR. Second, in a normal situation, removing 2 influence in Cuba is a little more impactful to the USSR. Losing a couple of influence in Turkey or West Germany in the case of the US is not typically game-changing, and it can be mitigated fairly easily by over-controlling West Germany or letting go of control of Turkey. The damage can also be repaired fairly quickly and easily. In the case of Cuba, losing 2 influence there makes it much more vulnerable to realignment rolls if not immediately replaced. Where this event can be really tricky though, is if the USSR has not yet played influence into Cuba because either the Fidel event was used for ops in the early war or was sent to space by the US, for example. If there's no influence to remove, the event cannot be cancelled and the USSR will be prevented from doing any coups for the entire turn. Also, while this situation is in effect, cards like Lone Gunman and Che lose their sting. Lone Gunman, in fact, is no longer a DEFCON suicide card for the US, as the Soviets cannot use the event for a coup as they normally would to win the game. The US can use an event to raise DEFCON once this situation is in force, and play event cards like SALT Negotiations or How I Learned to Stop Worrying, which opens up the board to the US conducting coups everywhere without fear of being countered. For the same reason, the Soviets can't play any cards that improve DEFCON, or they are handing the US a big opportunity to run wild. Also because of this, the Soviets are unlikely to reach their MILOPS obligation, which means that Cuban Missile Crisis is going to cost them victory points as well. If the US raises DEFCON throughout the turn, it can mean even more VP. And the US can spread through non-battlegrounds like wildfire, giving them greater opportunities to expand, especially in Africa and South America. The USSR can benefit from playing this event, but the problem is that it's just too easy for the US to cancel it. Even if the US doesn't have enough influence in either West Germany or Turkey, they usually have access to one or both of these countries. The US can put the influence in and remove it whenever they need to cancel the event. Another facet to headlining this event is that it can win you the game if your opponent headlines a card that both worsens DEFCON and that triggers after your Cuban Missile Crisis headline. This is one of the risks to headlining something like Olympic Games in the mid-war. Overall, this card can be very pesky for the USSR if the Soviets have no influence in Cuba. Otherwise, it's an event that needs to be dealt with by either player, but despite the events this card depicts, it's not the end of the world. This has been our analysis of the Cuban Missile Crisis card in Twilight Struggle. We hope you enjoyed the video and got some good value from it. If you did, please like, subscribe, and comment down below. This is NATO with Legendary Tactics.